Hey guys, it's John here from Sonic Drive Studio. Welcome to the channel and I hope you're all doing well. It's time for another album review. Last time I revisited an album from about 11 years ago, which in my opinion was an underrated gem, and that was The Final Frontier by Iron Maiden. But this time we're going to focus on an album that's much more recent and from one of my all-time favorite bands, Deftones. And of course I'm talking about the album Ohms. Here you have it, Ohms. Before we go on, if you're new to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a subscribe along with the notification bell to stay up to date on all my activities, and it would just make me very happy in general. A like and a comment down below would also be sweet because I'd love to know your thoughts as well. I just really enjoy talking about music with you guys, so please don't be shy. Now, I've been a Deftones fan for quite a long time now, and I remember back in the day when my brother used to listen to Around the Fur in his room while I was playing with Legos or something. And I was always like, this sounds so weird. What do I do with this? How do I process this music? But it was so unique, brutal and heavy, but at the same time also beautiful and atmospheric. So those were all very interesting combinations. I came from bands like Metallica and Oasis and stuff like that. And those sort of styles are a little bit more straightforward. And Deftones obviously is a little bit more alternative and experimental. So yeah, that's how I discovered them basically. And so pretty soon after White Pony was released and my brother got the album, I had to go to the store to get my very own copy, which I have over here. It's one of my all-time favorite albums, in fact. And even though my brother had his own copy, I just had to have a copy for myself, just for myself. And I remember laying in my bed at night with my eyes closed in the dark and listening to the music and getting enveloped by the music and, you know, getting to hear all those moods and textures and grooves, and it was just such an interesting experience, and I think that I learned so much from that music. It really made me grow as a music listener basically, and I was playing guitar already back then, so it also made me grow as a musician. So a great album that made a huge impact on me. So fast forward around 21 years or so, and I'd been waiting for the new Deftones record, you know, as those things go. It takes a couple years before they release a new record. I liked Gore, it was a cool album, but it's not my favorite to be honest. It's not their most strong album. It definitely has some cool songs and some cool moments and cool riffs and some cool things going on, but I think the overall production just isn't great, so it just didn't grab me as some of the other albums did. But I'm not knocking that album, it's still a cool album of course, but it's not their best work. And then word got out that Terry Date was working on the new album with them. And that was great news to me because I love his productions. He has worked with the band in the past on Adrenaline, Around the Fur, White Pony, the self-titled record. All great sounding record with a very signature sound. The self-titled record also is one of my favorites. And that record got me really into baritone guitars and stuff like that. It really inspired me to try new things on my instrument. And I was just really curious and excited to find out what Terry would do with the new sound of the band, you know, with the very low 8-string and 9-string guitars and the new bass player and stuff like that. So, Ohms got released, and when I first popped in the record, I was very, very pleased. Yes, another awesome album by a great band. All the songs are very refreshing and the album is very cohesive as a whole, and there are some very creative things going on sonically. I think the production is great as well, as it really fits the record. Not everything is super tight and overproduced and on the grid as a lot of modern metal albums are these days, but I actually really like that a lot about this album. It shows how the band actually plays and how the band actually sounds. It sounds more alive and real. The drum sound is great as well, perhaps not as polished and bright as the drum sounds on White Pony, for example, which are legendary, but they serve the music very well in my opinion, and that's the most important thing. I think the drums sound a little bit more vintagey and organic overall on this album, so that's a really nice touch. Chino's vocals are also very nice on this album, and again, they fit the album very well. They sound organic and alive as if there's a real person singing. Not every note has been auto-tuned to death, so that's a great thing. The bass sound and the bass parts are there as well, right in the pocket. Sergio has some great sounds and inventive ideas going on throughout the record, so that's also a cool thing. I actually think that he is a great addition to this band. Rest in peace Chi Cheng, of course, but Sergio is a very great new bass player for Deftones. The electronic elements are also very nice on this album and very refreshing. Sure, they are retro sounding, they remind me of 80s synthesizer sounds. They also remind me of movies like Blade Runner and the Blade Runner sequel. Those movies have great synth parts going on, so it reminds me of that mood. It sounds big and it sounds epic and moody. And it fits the overall mood of the album like a glove, so that's a great job. Frank did a great job there as well. And the guitars by Stephen Carpenter are also really good on this album. Probably one of the most important driving forces of the music on this record. We've got those very thick and heavy 8 and now also 9-string riffs going on. Groovy and as heavy as ever, but both Stephen and Chino also go into more melodic and mellow territories at times. So it's a quite dynamic record, and that's something that I really enjoy. So yeah, this album is very dynamic indeed, and it's also very organic and musical overall. So the overall performances on this album are great in my opinion. It's just my opinion, guys. If you don't agree, that's fine, but let me know in the comments. And I think the production by Terry Date is also great. So it's a very cohesive album and it's a very wholesome album. And even though the production is very good, maybe it's not as memorable as a production like White Pony, but at the same time, why aim for that exact same sound? This sounds fresh, new, and unique. Regarding the guitar tones on this album, I actually asked Stephen Carpenter himself what they used, and he confirmed that they used the old Marshall JMP1 preamps on this album. I'm not exactly sure what the signal flow was and which cabs they used and stuff like that, but the basic general tone is the Marshall JMP1, which is great news in my opinion as a guitarist because I really loved his older tones, especially on the albums like White Pony, Around the Fur, and the self-titled record. And for those records, I think he used the JMP1 as well, mostly. So it's his signature sound basically, and it sounds really good with his newer low tunings and even with the 9-string guitar. So the overall guitar tones on this album are great, very organic and sort of industrial at times, but the tones definitely sound like real tube amplifiers. The sounds are a little bit more raw and unpolished on this album, and I think again that it fits the music and the production. They've also got some cool effects going on at times, like some auto-wahs and modulation and delays. So those give the album's guitar tones a little bit more textures every now and then. Anyway, so now let's go over all the songs. The album starts off with the song Genesis. I believe this was one of their first singles for the album. The synthesizers in the intro really remind me of those Blade Runner sounds. And the spacey, clean, modulated and delay guitar in the intro is also very nice and moody. At this point, we're all just anticipating those heavy riffs. And then you get that guitar feedback and the drum clicks at boom! Down, 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 down. Then you get that super fat and heavy riff. Groovy riffs and signature Chino vocals. Boom, we're right at home. This is the Deftones sound. Love the slow groove in the verses and the overall vibe. The chorus is very beautiful and melodic, a very nice contrast to those dense and heavy verses. This is really a strong suit of the band, combining the heavy with the beautiful. And the bridge with the breakdown and the build-up is also goosebump inducing. So yeah, great song, love this a lot and a great opener to this wonderful record. The second song, Ceremony, starts off very small and lo-fi sounding. The vocals have a very small and sort of claustrophobic sound going on there. Almost sort of hard to listen to, but very cool and unique. And when the full band kicks in, I like the vibe a lot. And the overall evolution of this song is very cool too. In the second verse, the bass guitar is playing this very cool and creative bass line that comes back later in the song, but then with the guitars as well, and it's a very catchy and melodic riff that I really like a lot. It's one of the best riffs on the album, in fact. And I really like how it evolves from that small bass line onto those very thick guitars. The chorus is very nice too. It's kind of hard for me to come up with words to describe this, but I guess the best word is alternative. And that's a theme that carries on through the entire record, especially on the vocals. The vocals are kind of loose and playful and really, yeah, alternative sounding. And the cool guitar riff echoes that bass line that I just talked about, which again is a very strong thematic thing. The bridge is very sweet and emotional and floaty, and then boom, that riff kicks in again. So it's a very cool song and definitely one of the best songs on the record. Then comes the song Urantia. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A song that starts off very heavy with that fast picking and those accents on the guitars and the drums, before it falls into those melodic and atmospheric verses. Again, with those sort of loose and alternative vocal lines that I really enjoy. And the song grooves pretty hard when those muted guitars come into the verses. Again, definitely a very guitar riff driven song. The chorus is cool too, with those heavy chords and those melodic vocals with that harmony at the end. And that sort of hip-hoppy bridge with that drum loop and those sort of radio lo-fi vocals is also a very nice touch. The bridge is heavy, but those sort of radio vocals give it a nice, unique touch. And in the outro, the energy of the song definitely gets lifted up even more. Very heavy, and I just love that. So the ending is just great. Boom! Here we go. Next song. Error is the next song. The fuzz guitar in the beginning sounds very weird and also kind of claustrophobic again. A sound that also isn't very pleasant, but that's why it sounds so cool and weird, you know? And it gives a very good contrast to those thick and heavy guitars that kick in after. I don't know about you, but I really like the fact that Stefan switched to 8 and now even 9-string guitars. Those low notes just suit the music very well. But he doesn't just stay on those low notes, he also plays a lot of melodic stuff higher up the neck, so he definitely uses his guitars to the full extent. Anyway, so those 8-string riffs are awesome, and the overall vibe in the chorus is perhaps a little bit more hopeful in this one. I dig the vibe there, and again the synths really add to the mood. And the bridge is another one of those sections that flows into melodic dreaminess. With those melodic guitars and those playful vocals. Again, that's one of those aspects that I really like about Deftones. They're not afraid to explore different moods and textures. How the bridge flows into the outro is also very cool and moody overall. Love it. Then comes one of my favorite tracks on the album, and perhaps one of my all-time favorite Deftones tracks, The Spell of Mathematics. I think Stefan definitely used his 9-string on this song because it had some really low notes going on. Super low, in fact. And I think it's cool. I dig it. The more strings, the merrier. The overall grooves, the riffs, and the vibe of this song are just awesome, so it starts off great. I love the dynamics of this song as well, as it goes from those very low and thick grooves into those very intimate and more melodic verses. Again, those big signature dynamics. And the vocals on this song are also very great. Now, where this song gets really nice for me is the bridge. First, those heavy riffs with the groovy drums, and then the finger clicks. For some reason, I really like that part. The mellow drum groove underneath with that bass line, it's just a great section. Just perfect, and that really moody vocal in the background is also very cool and unique sounding. I get goosebumps from that part every single time. And then we get a heavy bit again, and then back into that bridge vibe for the outro. When you just get sucked back into that mood again, like a warm digital bath. The way the song breaks down onto the end is also very nice. So yeah, I love this song. Then we have the song Pompeji, an interesting song for sure. I dig the overall parts, the moods and the riffs, but for some reason this is not my favorite song on the record. To me, the chorus is also a little bit less strong than some of the others. The outro of the song is very cool though, with those synthesizers. I just love those vibes and sounds, and it really sucks you into the music. So that part basically makes this song better for me. And again, it's not a bad song, it fits the album nicely, but it's not as good as the previous song, for example. And then we get the song The Link Is Dead, a song that really reminds me of the sound from earlier records, like the self-titled record. I really dig the energy and the urgency in the verses. Those nasty guitars with those dissonant notes just sound really evil, basically. And the heavy grooves that come after fill out the sonic spectrum of the song quite nicely. Again, a very solid contrast. And those bridge riffs before the mellow part really remind me of grunge music for some reason. So that's a very cool touch. Then the breakdown, boom! Love that section. So yeah, definitely also one of my favorite tracks on the record. The next song on the record is Radiant City. A track that starts off with a nice groove that is followed by the drums and guitars. It's cool that Stefan is playing more of those types of riffs on this album. Again, the melodic and loose vocals fit the atmosphere of the song very nicely. And again, very nicely complemented by the screaming in the heavier parts. I'm beginning to see a theme here, contrast. The melodic chorus lifts this song up nicely, but in my opinion it's not the strongest chorus on this record. I like this song, I think it fits the overall album nicely, but again, it's just not my favorite song of the record. Then we get Headless, a song that starts off with an ambient intro until those thick and heavy guitars kick in. What else would you expect from a song called Headless, right? I really love the juxtaposition over there and the overall grooves. It's a strong song for sure. The choruses have a nice and typical Deftones vibe going on again. It's part of their signature sound after all, so obviously it's something that works for them. I really like the bridge on this one as well, the grooves, the vocals and the changes. Another strong song that fits this album quite nicely. And then we have the title track and the final track of the record, Ohms. 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 This was actually the first song that they released for this album, and it was an interesting choice for sure, because this song is very uplifting and sort of positive sounding overall, while the rest of the album is deeper and more moody and groovy. So I really enjoy this song, even though the vibe is kind of different from the rest of the album. And it's an interesting choice to put this song at the end of the record, as opposed to putting it at the front of the record. And this song feels very guitar driven and, as I said, very uplifting. And the octaver effect on the guitar is a very nice touch, and it gives the guitars a very nice and unique texture. The vocal lines throughout the song are very cool too, very strong and definitely sort of catchy. And the chorus has a very nice and groovy energy to it. And the outro really helps to give the album a very uplifting, a positive and energetic vibe that shows me that this band is far from done. I hope they make a lot more records than this one because I really enjoyed this album. So overall, I really like this album and I think it's a big step up from their previous effort. And I hope that they'll continue to work with Terry Date because I think that his overall production style fits this band very nicely. So this album has everything that I could wish for in a Deftones album. So from me, Ohms gets a very strong 9. And that's definitely not bad. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. So what do you think of this record? Do let me know in the comments down below, and also drop a like and a subscribe along with the notification bell if you haven't already. And you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you soon. Cheers!